hello. So this is about the various production planning that we started in the previous video. So we discussed the forecasting part, we discussed the sales and operation plan, and now before that we actually come up with a detailed planning and the execution of the detailed planning. We need to discuss something which is known as the planning strategies in SAP. So planning strategies represent the business procedures for the planning of production quantities and the planning and the dates of the production quantities. So how much to produce and when to produce, and this actually depends on a strategy. So there are various planning strategies available for the make to stock production scenarios and for make to order production scenarios, for configurable material scenarios, and for assembly order scenarios. Now why these four categories are different we shall discuss at length. And to start with make to stock production scenarios. In the make to stock production scenario, mainly we actually produce in order to stock, and then we sell from the stock. So there is no direct linkage of the production with sales, with actual sales, right? So production is a function of forecasted sales, and then actual sales are taking place from the production which is already taken place. So there are four strategies available for make to stock production scenarios. One is the net requirements planning, the gross requirement planning, the production by lot size, and the planning with final assembly. So let me explain it one by one with the help of an example in Excel. So these are actually the four major strategies. And so to start with these are the make to stock scenario. So let's write it, make to stock scenario, right? And this is very important for the supply chain people, that's why I'm explaining it in a bit detail. So to start with, assume that we have four departments. The one is the planning department, which actually does forecasts. Then there is a sales department, which actually comes with the sales orders. Then there is a warehouse department which has stock, and then there is the actual production department which actually does the production, right? So this actually does the production. So we have to decide about this, how many units to produce. So this is what the production plan is all about. The entire production plan we are talking about is to decide how much produce and when to produce. So let's assume that before the start of the period we did a forecast, and the planning department came up that during the month of for example January, the total sales will be 200,000, and the warehouse stock was 10 units, right? And assume that during the period, during January, we received on the 1st of January, let's say we received orders of 210 units. Now how much actually the production department will produce during January, right? So as I am saying January, you can replicate it onto a day or a week or even more than a month. So the point to note is that since this is the make to stock scenario, it means the production people are actually making for the stock, they are not making for the sale. It means they are taking directives from the planning department, they are not taking directives from the actual sales department. So they will produce according to the forecast. Since the forecast was 200 units, so they will either produce 200 units or they will produce 200 minus 10 available, so they will produce 190 units. So now the net requirements planning is something when we produce according to the forecast which is developed by the planning department, production planning department, and we also take into account the available stock. We deduct the available stock, opening stock, right? So that we produce the 190 units. And the gross requirement planning is when we produce 200 units, means we disregard the available stock, we produce whatever is our forecast. So we produce according to the forecasted sales or forecast that have been developed by our plan. So you see the actual sales order are 210, the actual sales order may be 110, the actual sales order may be in an extreme case 0, or the actual sales order may be in an extreme case 400. But the planning people are actually not taking into consideration the actual sales orders, because they are actually making the scenarios make to stock scenarios. So they are actually making for stock, and then whatever the actual requirements are, when the stock will be there, when the stock will be complete, it will be passed on here, and the actual sales will be done from these stocks. Now this means that there are two implications. If the sales requirement, sales order, actual sales order are higher, we are not able to meet them. If they are lower, we have some overstocking. So this is actually the consequence of the make to stock scenario, because the make to stock scenario takes into account the one basic premise. The assumption is that our forecasts are so strong that actually we don't need to actually follow the actual sales order, we just need to follow the forecast. So the underlying assumption in the make to stock scenarios is that the forecasts are very strong, so that if the actual sales are lesser in this month, they will eventually be higher in the other months or other periods, so that the stock overstocking and the understocking will automatically be balanced out over a period of time. The third one, so to summarize the first two strategies, right? So this one was about the net requirements planning. We will manufacture 190 units. It means net requirement is 190. The gross requirement was 200. Net requirement is 10 is stocks. Net requirement is 190. So we'll produce 190. And if we take up the gross requirement planning, then we'll produce 200. It means we are not taking into account the available inventory. The third one is production by lot size, and the complete name is for sales and stock orders. So this is the complete name. If we actually refer the complete name. Now what's done in this particular case, actually we have a bit different scenario. Say this is something we need to decide about, right? So let me color it. So we have two types of sales orders. One is the minor sales orders, and one is the, or you can say, minor customers or residual customers, or let's say major customers. And then there are some sales to residual customers. So if the scenario is such that we have some major customers, right, who actually eat up the major part of the sale, and there are some residual customers, right, who actually to whom we sell, then we divide our production in two different types. For the major customers, we actually follow a sort of make to order scenario, and for the residual customers we follow make to stock scenario. So let's say now the planning forecast is only for residual customers. It's not for major customers, because for major customers we will only manufacture when we will receive their orders. We will not actually plan. So since the major customers are maybe their demand is not very much predictable, they can require whenever they want, then we don't forecast actually for these major customers. We only forecast, say our forecast for the residual customers is 40, and say we will produce, and say our actual sales order in the start of the January, say, or in the end of this December, say, are 210, and our actual sales order for the residual customers are, say, 20. We shall produce this plus this, right? So we'll disregard this one. I'm sorry, it should be here. We shall produce 210 units. So the production is a function of actual sales orders, not the planned sales order for the major customers, and it is the function of forecasted sales orders, forecasted sales for the residual customers, right? So for the residual customer, we are not taking into account the actual orders. We are, you can say that we are selling them to them from the stock, right? From the stock that we manufacture. And for the actual customers, when we receive their order, we start manufacturing them. It means that the customer needs to wait for the production, because the production is specifically for the customers. So although it is classified in the SAP's make to order scenario, make to stock scenario, it has partly the attributes of make to order scenario and partly the make to stock scenario. I hope this is clear. Now this can be, again, it can be 40 plus 210, which is 250, or it can be 250 minus 10, right? Again, according to the net requirements planning or gross requirement planning. So this can be actually settled, or this can be set according to the requirement, whether in the production by lot size for sales and stock orders, are we actually going to net requirement produced on the basis of net requirements planning or on the basis of gross requirement planning. So we actually define these parameters also somewhere in implementing this strategy. Remember, this strategy is different from these two strategies. Now, why we say label it as a lot size for sales and stock order? Now remember, this is the stock order, right? Because we have forecasted that this much will be sold to the residual customers. We need to manufacture it for stocking so that we can sell. And this is the sale order. So we combine them and make a lot of 250 or 240 according to the net or gross requirement planning. And our lot size is actually the combination of the sales and the stock order. That's why we say planning strategy 30, production by lot size and sale orders. And now the fourth important one is the planning with final assembly. Now, as I used to say, that SAP's terminology is sometimes not very much representative of its contents and the business process. And I used to say such terms as a German term in my class among my students. So the point to understand here is that, again, this term is not very much representative of what the strategy is all about. The point is that we actually forecast and we produce according to the forecast, right? So long as the orders are less than the forecast, right? But if somehow the actual order during the period when we are manufacturing, actual order comes out to be 210 units, then we shall produce 210 units, right? So this is a one-sided customer sensitive, sales order sensitive strategy. It means that if somehow we are responding to the customers, the real market, the real customers orders in a way that if our forecast falls short of the actual sales orders, we actually increase our production. But if the forecast is more than the actual sales orders, then we actually keep our production according to the forecast, and we do not reduce our production, our actual production on the basis of orders, so that we shall have, say, more stock during the end of the period. By the end of the period, we shall have some sort of more stock. So it's a bit compromise on both sides, and it's responsive to the customer demand. Customer service is more important if the orders are less than the forecast. We don't reduce the production, but if orders are more than the forecast, then we actually increase the produce. So I hope these strategies make sense and are clear. There are some other strategies available as well, but we shall now discuss the make to order stock scenarios, make to order scenarios, and the strategies associated with in the next video. Keep visiting. Thank you.